Austin looked like another calm Sunday. Verstappen led, Leclerc fought, Norris chased, and Hamilton, fourth. A result that, on paper, means nothing, but inside Ferrari, that fourth place sounded like a siren, because beneath the celebrations on the podium, something deeper broke. Hamilton's tone after the race wasn't angry, it was surgical, detached. He'd spent 56 laps watching two rival teams, Red Bull and McLaren, execute perfection while Ferrari hesitated, improvised, and fell back into old habits. "The car just faded, there was nothing left," he said, and that calm voice hid a storm. Behind the screens in Maranello, engineers exchanged looks they'd been avoiding for months. Hamilton didn't need to shout, his result did it for him. Ferrari had the raw speed to challenge, but not the structure to finish the fight. And for a man chasing his 8th title, structure is everything. Austin wasn't about who won, it was about who refused to lose quietly, because P4 wasn't a failure, it was a message. And the silence that followed inside the Ferrari garage was louder than any victory cheer. Halfway through the race, Hamilton already knew the truth. It wasn't the tires, or the heat, or the lack of upgrades. It was something deeper, almost invisible. Hesitation. While Red Bull executed like a machine and McLaren's calls landed with military precision, Ferrari hesitated. Twice. Once at the pit wall, once in the driver's mind. And Hamilton felt both. Every lap he asked for information. Gaps, strategy, tire life. But the responses came a heartbeat too late. And in Formula 1, one heartbeat can decide everything. That's when he went silent on the radio, because sometimes silence says more than words. He understood that Ferrari wasn't yet ready to follow him. They were still trying to manage him. When he crossed the line in P4, he didn't slam the steering wheel. He just said quietly, "We could have done more." To the world, it sounded calm. To Ferrari, it was a verdict, because Hamilton didn't just drive the car, he measured the culture. And on that Sunday in Texas, the stopwatch wasn't his enemy. Ferrari's mindset was. While Leclerc fought Norris wheel to wheel, Hamilton watched the whole battle unfold like a strategist studying a chessboard. The Monegasque was brilliant, but trapped. His fight with McLaren wasn't just about tires or grip, it was a fight against Ferrari's limits. Every lap, Leclerc was told to manage pace, to hold position, to save tires, and Hamilton heard it all. He's been in championship-winning garages. He knows the difference between control and fear. Ferrari's pit wall wasn't commanding, it was reacting. Hamilton didn't interfere. He stayed quiet, learning the rhythm of the chaos. When Leclerc's tires collapsed, Hamilton wasn't surprised. He already knew the car wasn't designed for risk. It was designed for damage control. And that's the real divide between them. Leclerc drives with emotion, Hamilton drives with information. One fights to prove himself, the other fights to fix the system. By the time he reached P4, Hamilton had seen enough to understand the problem wasn't speed, it was philosophy. And that realization would change how he speaks to Ferrari from now on. When the garage lights dimmed and the crowd noise faded, Hamilton stayed behind. He didn't storm out, he didn't argue, he opened the telemetry. Lap by lap, he traced every detail, throttle input, brake temperature, tire degradation. The numbers told the same story his instincts already knew. Ferrari's pace didn't collapse because of the car. It collapsed because of the calls. The softs went too long, the mediums came too late, DRS windows were missed, fuel targets adjusted mid-stint. Each small hesitation cost fractions of time that became seconds, and seconds in F1 are lifetimes. Hamilton marked the data silently, creating a pattern. He wasn't collecting statistics, he was building a case. Because when he walks into Monday's debrief, he won't argue feelings, he'll argue facts. This is how Hamilton fights his wars, not through interviews, but through evidence. While others defend reputation, he builds truth. And that's what makes Ferrari uneasy. He's not challenging their speed, he's challenging their structure. Austin wasn't lost on track, it was lost in timing, trust, and communication. 3 things Hamilton intends to rebuild his own way. Monday morning, Maranello. The debrief room was unusually tense, not because of what Hamilton might say, but because of what he wouldn't. He entered quietly, carrying the race report under his arm. No entourage, no theatrics, just data. When the screens lit up, Hamilton didn't start with blame. He started with patterns. He showed how Ferrari loses time not in speed, but in hesitation. He highlighted 3 pit calls that came seconds too late, 2 communication gaps between engineer and driver, and 1 decision that turned a possible podium into P4. Nobody interrupted him, not even Vasseur, because in that moment it wasn't Hamilton the driver speaking, it was Hamilton the architect. He wasn't there to vent, he was there to rebuild. His message was clear. You can't win with fear of being wrong. For a team that spent years buried under politics, that line hit like a sledgehammer. Ferrari realized that Hamilton hadn't joined them to adapt, he'd joined to teach, and whether they were ready or not, a cultural shift had just begun. Leclerc sat 3 seats away from Hamilton during that meeting, silent, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the screen. He wasn't angry, he was uneasy, because what Hamilton was saying, deep down, was what Leclerc had been feeling for years. But Hamilton wasn't complaining, he was solving, and that difference drew a line between them. Leclerc has always been Ferrari's emotional compass, the loyal heart of Maranello, but Hamilton, he's the strategist. He doesn't race with passion, he races with precision. And in a team built on legacy and loyalty, that calm authority feels like disruption. After the meeting, whispers spread across the factory floor. Did you see how he spoke to Vasseur? Leclerc never does that. It wasn't arrogance, it was leadership, the kind Ferrari hadn't seen since Schumacher. For Leclerc, that shift was unsettling. For Hamilton, it was necessary. Because to fix Ferrari, someone has to stop protecting feelings and start protecting results. And whether Maranello likes it or not, Hamilton just became the team's unofficial captain. Riccardo Adami has been with Ferrari long enough to know the rules. Loyalty comes before logic. But that rule is starting to break. After Austin, he replayed Hamilton's race radio over and over again. The tone, the pauses, the restraint. Hamilton wasn't emotional, he was diagnostic. Every word pointed to an issue Adami already suspected but never dared to say aloud. Ferrari's strategy chain is too slow to keep up with its drivers. Now he's caught between 2 worlds. On one side, the Ferrari hierarchy that demands unity, even when it's wrong. On the other, a driver who exposes weakness not to embarrass, but to evolve. Adami has begun making quiet adjustments, faster updates, sharper calls, fewer explanations. He's learning that Hamilton doesn't want reassurance, he wants accuracy. And in that shift, Adami faces the hardest truth of all, that loyalty isn't about defending mistakes, it's about defending progress. Inside Ferrari, that's a dangerous idea. But for the first time, Adami's loyalty might be changing direction, not toward Maranello's tradition, but toward Hamilton's vision. Ferrari has entered a quiet storm, the kind that doesn't roar, but reshapes everything it touches. And at its center stands Lewis Hamilton. In just a few months, he's transformed from the new arrival to the gravitational force of the entire team. Engineers now quote his debriefs. Strategists replay his feedback. Even those who doubted him are beginning to align, not out of fear, but clarity. Because Hamilton doesn't command with ego, he commands with evidence. And that's what makes him unstoppable. Leclerc still shines as Ferrari's loyal heart, but Hamilton has become its mind. The team that once resisted outside influence is now orbiting around a single voice, a voice that refuses excuses, that speaks only in solutions. Austin may have ended with P4, but inside Ferrari, that result marked something far greater. It was the birth of a new hierarchy, the beginning of a new order. And as the countdown to 2026 begins, one truth echoes through Maranello's corridors: Ferrari doesn't control Hamilton anymore. Hamilton controls Ferrari.